brother, we have seen enough, yet we have done nothing. Their time will come. Soon they will know the justice of Wakanda. Today on the Comic Book Report, Ultimate Black Panther, Volume 1, Peace and War. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're back in the world of the new Marvel Ultimate Universe. Today we're taking a look at the first trade paperback volume for Ultimate Black Panther. If you've been sticking around the channel in recent months, you'll have seen my review of Ultimate Invasion as well as the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm pretty excited about this new Ultimate Universe over at Marvel, and I can't wait to talk about this book today. Before we do though, I'd like to shout out the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can actually find a link for it in this video's description, and if you see anything there you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's comic book review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume are written by Bryan Hill and penciled by Stefano Caselli and Carlos Nieto. The comics in this volume were first published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2024. The volume itself collects Ultimate Black Panther issues 1 through 6. And finally, this is a standard size trade paperback with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 152 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at today's trade paperback collection from Marvel Comics. Right from the jump, I will say, so far all of these new Ultimate Universe paperbacks have a very similar visual style, which I really enjoy. We have kind of a little snapshot of a cover on the right, a picture image of course, and on the left we've had Ultimate, fill in the gap, whatever the series is, some kind of unique logo work there with the U, usually, the titles, the creators, things like that. The spines as well are very uniform so far. I actually have my other paperbacks and I'll show you in a minute just to compare and give you an idea of what this line looks like so far, but I'm really liking it. I like the uniformity and everything like that. On the back cover, we have a really cool panther head symbol with T'Challa in the middle. We have a little bit of a blurb description about the book, what it contains, things like that, pricing information, but it's a pretty minimalist look overall. The aesthetic kind of has a field of white with this kind of purplish writing, and again, everything's pretty sparse as far as the detail work on the back, but I like it. I think it's a really gripping visual style, and honestly, I was fully in on this title when I went ahead and picked it up. Now, a quick look at the binding for this. This is a glued binding. It's really standard for all the trade paperback collections, especially from Marvel here. A little bit of gutter loss, maybe. Nothing too bad. This is very similar to any paperback collection you're going to get, that I've seen at least. So no complaints from me. It laid down fairly flat overall, which I liked. Again, yeah, just straightforward binding. And just a quick couple comparison shots for you with the 3 collections that have been released thus far. I am filming this before the Ultimate X-Men trade paperback releases in early November. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to release this on the channel. But yeah, we have Ultimate Invasion, which was the mini-series by Jonathan Hickman. It was a 4-issue little mini-series, and it kind of sets up the events in the 616 mainstream Marvel universe that goes on to create this new Ultimate Universe. I also have that Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1, also by Jonathan Hickman, Marco Cicchetto, and others. A really brilliant run so far over there, really enjoying it. That's all done in this new Ultimate Universe, and then of course now the Ultimate Black Panther by Bryan Hill. I am really eager to see what Marvel does with this new line of comics, and I think personally as a fan and a reader, this is the most excited I've been about new and ongoing Marvel comics since probably the Krakoa era started over with the X-Men line. And again, for those interested, I did recently review both these other paperbacks on my channel. I'll try to go ahead and link the video reviews for those that want to check those out. And after wrapping up our look at the spines, we'll go ahead and jump into today's collection. As we make our way into the collection itself, we have a nice title page, publication information, things like that. We have the creator breakdown page, and then we actually have kind of a previously in the Marvel Ultimate Universe that brings you loosely up to speed with the setup for what happened in the Ultimate Invasion to really kick off this Black Panther series. I think this was a novel touch in case you didn't read Ultimate Invasion and you want to dive into Black Panther. It gives you kind of a quick paragraph synopsis and gives you basic outlines of what you need to understand this new universe, and then you can just jump right into the issue 1. Now, as I mentioned, this collection does include the first 6 issues of Ultimate Black Panther, and I really liked it. I won't bury the lead. I think overall this was a really fun start to this whole series. Kind of like Ultimate Spider-Man, I do think that there's this level that this just feels like a first chapter rather than a first full story arc, if that makes any sense. I feel like this is a really good primer for what they're going to be continuing to build over in this book, but I don't feel like we got closure on any real plot point. I feel like it was a lot of setup. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but just something that should be mentioned. I think if I had one criticism of this collection, it was that I didn't feel like I had full stories. I felt like I had foundational groundwork and some really riveting characters, some great art, and a really solid direction for what comes next. I should also say that I am newer to the world of Black Panther overall. I just recently read the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther Omnibus, and that's really the first full Black Panther run I've ever read. I've read a couple of his other single issues, kind of his early stuff. I have the early years Omnibus. I've read a little bit of that. I've seen his appearances in things like Avengers and event titles, and I've barely dabbled in the Christopher Priest run, but otherwise I'm pretty blank slate with T'Challa. So it is a little hard for me to judge totally accurately on this character, but I think like a lot of the other Marvel Ultimate titles, this is a really good place to read for new readers. It doesn't really expect you to know anything, any background knowledge, other than maybe the events of Ultimate Invasion. But even that, like I said, they summarize it for you and you can dive right in. However, for more seasoned fans of T'Challa, you'll definitely notice some of the supporting cast of characters. In the beginning of this book, we have characters like T'Challa's father, T'Chaka. We have Okoye, who was once a leader in the Dora Milaje, this kind of elite female squad of kind of military personnel, but in this universe, it's actually T'Challa's bride. This was the first kind of wrinkle I noticed in this Ultimate Universe, and I thought it was a fun development. We also have the introductions of Eric Killmonger and Storm, who in this universe appear to start out as lovers or in some kind of romantic relationship, and we have T'Challa's younger sister, Shuri. And I would say overall, this is the main cast of characters. We're also introduced to a really interesting kind of quasi-religious group within Wakanda that deal in kind of prophecy and mysticism that T'Challa is very wary of, but ultimately seeks their counsel multiple times throughout this book. And they're really an interesting group of characters. We deal with like kind of the main practicer of this order who kind of gives riddles and metaphors and things to T'Challa that kind of prophesy over his life, presumably. It's a really interesting dynamic, and I think one of the things this run does well is even in these early issues, you kind of get the political setup and landscape of Wakanda, and I think for the most part, that's a key ingredient for a successful Black Panther series. I think Black Panther works really well when he has one foot in kind of the superhero scape and one foot in the kind of Wakandan government and Wakandan roles, and I think I see that here in this book. If anything, I think he leans more into just the nature of what's going on in Wakanda more than superheroics, but I think it's really captivating. I think what Bryan Hill's done here as well, he's just done a good job of setup. Veering a little bit more into spoiler territory, essentially the central conflict here is that Ra and Khonshu, who are two gentlemen that are part of the kind of evil cabal set up by the Maker, they basically go by the organization or the grouping known as Moon Knight. This isn't Mark Spector, this isn't a physical person. This is a group led by these two figures who are basically trying to circumvent T'Challa and Wakanda and create kind of a rival nation. Now, they do have a lot of subjects under their sway, and they are often garbed in moon-like garb, so we definitely have some Moon Knight kind of hints and allusions. I do wonder if we'll get a full-on Moon Knight figure in the future, but right now it is this group that's predominantly led by Ra and Khonshu. They're really just kind of enigmatic figures. You don't really know exactly what their aim is in the first couple issues of this book. They seem to have a mole or so inside Wakanda. This leads to an assassination attempt on T'Challa. T'Chaka, his father, saves him by pushing him off this this kind of like little central dais, and he gets blown to pieces. And so T'Challa is basically on a warpath trying to figure out who murdered his father, who is kind of the mole, and what's going on in his kingdom. This leads to this kind of not exile, but he basically leaves the kingdom and kind of does his own reconnaissance work. This is when he comes across Eric Killmonger and Storm, who are part of their own kind of grouping. They're basically trying to do things outside of Wakanda, try to make people feel more free, and they basically discover that there's this interesting substance that's kind of an anti-vibranium that creates life and can be used as a terraforming agent. We have T'Challa and Killmonger and Storm and eventually Shuri and Okoye, his bride, kind of brought into this inner council. They kind of relay what's going on with this artifact, this source of power, but then it gets stolen by Ra and Khonshu, and ultimately this leads to kind of the gates of war between Wakanda and whatever the Moon Knight is doing. And that is where this collection leaves us, right at the brink of a war. Now, in the midst of that, we do have a lot of other twists and turns that I've kind of overlooked. We do have the relationship between Okoye and T'Challa, the marriage there. We have it strained as he's trying to protect his nation, avenge his father, put on a brave face. He is a newer king, so there is this kind of distrust in the general public, or they're still trying to figure out what they feel about T'Challa. And when you have the older king assassinated and a lot of unrest, there's just a lot of question marks. We have Okoye trying to kind of hold down the fort and not being in a ton of communication. We also have a prophecy that seems to suggest that Storm has some kind of future with T'Challa, which is of course complicated by his marriage. I think it's also just really interesting to see the romantic relationship between Killmonger and Storm. So far, Eric Killmonger seems to be a benevolent force in this universe, but we know in the regular Marvel universe, he's definitely a villain. In fact, one of Black Panther's most dangerous villains. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. Do we trust him? Is he trustworthy in this universe, or will there be a darker turn? I think overall it asks the right questions for longer term Black Panther fans, but for new people just checking it out, I think there's a lot of great just intrigue, and you get to know these characters for the first time fresh, and I think that that's really rewarding as well. I do think Bryan Hill did an excellent job of setting up our cast of characters, and overall I have no complaints on that front. On the art side of things, the art by Stefano Caselli I thought was absolutely gorgeous. I love the character design, the character models, the world building kind of fantastical elements of Wakanda. I thought all of it was just beautifully done. The art from Nieto as well was really good. I feel like there's some cohesion visually between these two artists. I probably preferred the Caselli stuff, but like I said, both artists extremely gifted. I think they definitely realized this world of Ultimate Black Panther in Wakanda, and I liked it. I really like it so far. I hope we see these artists remain on the book for some time, and I'm eager for a volume 2. At the end of the collection, we do have some great character model stuff. We have a variant cover art gallery, so it is fun to still see a handful of extras at the back of this paperback. I by no means expect lengthy extras in a paperback collection, but like I said, I was pleasantly surprised here. We got a good couple of pages. I loved seeing some of the variant covers, especially those provided by Boss Logic. Just absolutely gorgeous stuff. After the variant covers, we basically have a solicitation for some future releases, and that's the end of this paperback, Ultimate Black Panther, Peace and War. Not a perfect collection, but a fantastic start to a series that I think has a lot of promise. I'm eager to see what's ahead, and now I think all that's left is to give this collection a grade. For another solid start for a new Ultimate Universe title, filled to the brim with intrigue and compelling characters, and gorgeous artwork of course, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Ultimate Black Panther, Peace and War a B. This is certainly an above average read for me. I think this is a really good start. Like I said, I think the only drawback for me in this collection is that this just feels like the first chapter, not a full story, so I really want to see further along in this series how it resolves. I'm not sure I gravitated towards it as strongly as I did the Ultimate Spider-Man title by Hickman, but I was still very pleasantly surprised. I think this is a great book for new readers or returning Black Panther fans alike. It's definitely one I'm going to try to stick with into future volumes as budget allows. And honestly, I'm just really excited to see what comes next with this new universe. But you'll have to let me know what you think. Have you been reading Ultimate Black Panther? Have you been reading any of the other Marvel Ultimate titles that have come out recently? What are some of your favorites? I'd love to hear all of that in the comments section. And thank you so much everyone for watching. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, that comment we just talked about, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks everyone, and have a good one.